Hey guys, it's Blue here from Blue Bears Games, and for today's video, I decided to take a break from doing the Commander Precon unboxing and upgrade guides so I can bring you something a little different. So the story goes like this. A friend of mine messaged me to ask me if I'd like to buy one of his decks and sent me the deck list. I have enough decks of my own if you couldn't tell, and initially I said no. Then he gave me the price he was asking for and said I could use it to make videos for my channel. At this point, I'm intrigued, and since the price was the same as the budget decks that I sell anyway, I gave in and agreed. He dropped it off the next day, and here we are. The commanders for the deck, whose names I'm going to butcher throughout this video, are Okaun and Zndrsplt, which should sound familiar to some of you because Wizards did a Secret Lair Commander deck with these two partners called Heads I Win, Tails You Lose back in November of 2021. The deck I'm about to show you is similar to that deck, but with some variation to the card selection. Some are better choices, and some are made for budgetary reasons. You see, his group has a house rule that they use sometimes where the deck's monetary value cannot exceed $100, and this was one of the decks he made to fit that rule. While most of you probably know what these two do already, not everyone does, so let me show you real quick. Okaun is 1 red and 4 generic mana for a 3/3 legendary Cyclops Berserker with partners with Zndrsplt and 2 other abilities. The first ability says that at the beginning of combat on your turn, flip a coin until you lose a flip. The second ability says whenever a player wins a coin flip, double Okaun's power and toughness until end of turn. Zndrsplt is 1 blue and 4 generic mana for a 1/4 legendary homunculus with partners with Okaun and 2 other abilities as well. Zndrsplt's first ability is similar to Okaun's ability and says at the beginning of combat on your turn, flip a coin until you lose a flip. And Zndrsplt's second ability says that whenever a player wins a coin flip, draw a card. It should be obvious that the deck's entire theme is centered around flipping coins, which to most sounds like it would be a lot of fun, but for some, the thought of having to keep coins on you to play a game of Magic sounds like a nightmare. For those of you on the latter side of this, don't worry, because I have a solution. If you have an Android device, the MTG Familiar app that I tout so often has a digital coin flip option built right into it for you. That app should help alleviate the need for coins and the rigmarole of having to chase down errant coin flips. If you don't have an Android device though, I'm pretty sure that you have an app in your device's app store that's sole purpose is to flip a coin for you digitally. Now before I get to it and show you how this deck was built, I want to take a moment to let you know that if you're in the market for an awesome looking deck box, playmat, or sleeves, please visit our sponsor at arcane-fortress.com and take a look at what they have. Their deck boxes are some of the best I've ever used, and you can even get an additional 5% off of your total purchase if you use discount code BLUEBEAR at checkout. If you want to take a closer look at their deck boxes, check out the link that just popped up at the top right of your screen. That link will take you to a review I did of their deck box so you can see how it looks and all of its features. Now let's get to it and see what's in the deck. So I'll start this off by showing you the lands that he chose. From what I can see from the lands here, nothing is too spectacular, so this is where he chose to save money on that $100 budget that they like to play with. So we start off with things like Temple of Epiphany, Swift Water Cliffs, Is It Guildgate, Is It Boilerworks, Exotic Orchard, Forgotten Cave, Ash Barrens, Myriad Landscape, Rogue's Passage, which is nice because you want to make that one commander that can grow bigger unblockable so you can get commander damage in. Buried Ruins, so you can get back one of those artifacts that will be important that I'll show you about in a little bit. Witch's Clinic, so this one's a different one. I've never actually shown this to anybody on any of my videos because I don't have one, so now I do. It's a land that comes into play untapped, taps at a colorless, and then you can pay 2 and tap it to have target commander gain lifelink until end of turn, which is really good with Okaun. Evolving Wilds for deck thinning, and then the rest of it was just islands and mountains, and I believe it was like 11 or 12 of each. I have a deck list that I'll put in the description so you can see the exact amount. Moving on, I'm going to show you the ramp that he chose. It's blue and red, so there's not a whole lot of ramp, so it was all mana rocks, and you can tell that it was budget conscious because of that $100 limit. So it was a Soul Ring, an Expedition Map, a Wayfarer's Bauble, an Arcane Signet, a Talisman of Creation, an Is It Signet, a Mind Stone, so good for card draw. Thought Vessel was one of the ones that was part of the more expensive of the cards. It's not too expensive, but it was definitely an upgrade.
And then Decanter of Endless Water, and the cool thing about this one, it does the same thing as the Thought Vessel does, only it can tap the Adamant of any color instead of colorless. But what was really cool is, I didn't notice this until recently, that it was a foil one, and I actually like this card a lot. And then the last card was a Commander Sphere, because again, you can sacrifice it later to draw a card when you need to. The creatures that he chose to put in are a mixed bag. There's a lot of coin flip stuff in here, but there's a lot of utility in here too. There's not a lot of creatures in general, but we'll start off with Suspicious Bookcase. It's a 2-cast 0/4 wall that has Defender, but it also has an ability that says you can pay 3 and tap it to have target creature not be able to be blocked for the turn, which is great when you can buff up Okaun, or however you say it. Creepy Doll was a cool inclusion here. It's a 5-cast 1/1 that's indestructible. And then whenever it deals combat damage to a creature, you flip a coin, which is on par for what this theme is. And then if you win the coin flip, you destroy that creature. So I thought that was a pretty cool inclusion. Tavern Scoundrel is a 2-cast 1/3 that says whenever you win a coin flip, you create 2 treasure tokens, which is quite nice, especially since you have an ability in this deck that I'll show you later to infinitely flip coins. And then he also has an ability that says pay 1 and tap it, and sacrifice another permanent to just flip a coin for no reason. Kark the Thumbless is what the basis of this deck is probably built around. 2-cast 2/2 Goblin that says whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, you flip a coin. If you lose the coin flip, return that spell to its owner's hand. And if you win the coin flip, copy that spell, and you may choose new targets for the copy. It also has Partner, which has no bearing on what's going on here because we already have our 2 partners. I'm sure you can flip it around though and put him in there if you want. Goblin Archaeologist is a 2-cast 1/2 that you can pay 1 red and tap it to flip a coin. And if you win the coin flip, you destroy target artifact and untap it. But if you lose the coin flip, you sacrifice it. So, it's give or take. It's a 50-50 chance, so why not? Chaotic Goo is a 4-cast 0/0 that comes into play with 3 +1/+1 counters. Then, during your upkeep, you may flip a coin. And if you win that flip, you add a +1/+1 counter to it, but if you lose, you remove 1. So again, more 50-50 shenanigans of coin flipping. Karplusan Minotaur is a 4-cast 3/3 with a cumulative upkeep. And if you need me to explain cumulative upkeep to you, ask in the comment section, and I will. And the upkeep cost is to flip a coin. So on the first upkeep he's in play, you flip 1 coin. On the second, you flip 2. On the third, you flip 3, and so on. And it says whenever you win a coin flip, Karplusan Minotaur deals 1 damage to target creature or player, or I think that now says any target. And then whenever you lose a coin flip, it deals 1 damage to target creature or player or any target of an opponent's choice. Tribute Mage is in here for utility reasons. It's a 3-cast 2/2 that when it enters the battlefield, you may search your library for an artifact card with converted mana cost equal to 2, reveal it, and put it in your hand, and then shuffle. And why this is in here is for the thumb, and I'll show you the thumb in a little bit. Usury Fortune's Flame is a 3-cast 2/3 flyer that says whenever it attacks, you choose a number between 1 and 5, and you flip that many coins. For each flip you win, you draw a card, and for each flip that you lose, it deals 2 damage to you. And if you win somehow 5 flips this way, highly unlikely, but it can happen, you may cast spells from your hand this turn without paying their mana cost. The only reason why the 5 flips may possibly end up in your favor is because of the thumb. So I'll show you, like I said, I'll show you that in a little bit. Alright, we got Mutalith Vortex Beast. It's a 6-cast 6/6 with Trample, and an ability called Warp Vortex that says when it enters the battlefield, you flip a coin for each opponent that you have, and for each flip that you win, you draw a card, and for each flip that you lose, it deals 1 damage to that player. So there's a win-win here. There's no bad thing here. There's just an okay thing and a good thing. The last creature is the Locust God. It is a 6-cast 4/4 flyer that says whenever you draw a card, you create a 1/1 blue and red insect creature token with flying and haste. And then it has another ability that says for 4, you can draw a card, then discard a card. And then, of course, the last ability is one of the God abilities, which is when it dies, you return it to its owner's hand at the beginning of the next end step. The instants and sorceries that he chose for the deck appear to be split up into 5 different categories. I'll start with the removal. So he chose things like Rapid Hybridization, which destroys a creature in blue, which is weird. Reality Shift, which exiles a creature in blue. Resculpt, which also exiles a creature in blue. Magma Quake, which deals damage to each creature without flying and each planeswalker. Starstorm, which also deals X damage, but only to each creature, and it can be cycled. Chaos Warp, it's one of my least favorite removals in the game. Chain Reaction, so it deals X damage to each creature, where X is the number of creatures on the battlefield. Evacuation, which is to return all creatures to their owner's hands. Blasphemous Act, which is something that Wizards uses a lot in their precons. Dispel, which counters an instant spell, which is weird. I actually think that that's one of the first upgrades I'm going to do. Counterspell, which is obviously just counters any spell. Muddle the Mixture, which is a great card. So Transmute is kind of cool. Dispel counters target instant or sorcery, but most of the time when somebody puts Muddle the Mixture in a deck, it's because of the Transmute. Transmute says that you can pay 3 and discard this card to search your library for a card with the same exact mana cost as this card costs. So this costs 2. So my assumption is this is to go find Kark's Thumb, which I will again show you in a little bit. Negate, which counters a non-creature spell. Unwind counters a non-creature spell and you untap 3 lands. And that's the removal. The card draw was kind of weak. It was Throw of Possibility. Squeeze Revenge, which was kind of cool. This is an older card. This is from Apocalypse. It's 3 to cast, and it says you choose a number, flip a coin that many times, or until you lose a flip, and then whichever comes first, obviously. And then if you win all the flips, you draw 2 cards for each flip. So if you pay the 3 and then you choose 1 coin flip and you win that one, you draw 2 cards. If you lose the flip, nothing happens. If you choose to flip it 3 times and somehow you win all 3 flips, you draw 6 cards. So it's kind of cool, but it's another way to flip coins. And the last card draw card was Treasure Cruise, which is 8 to cast, has Delve, because nothing can actually return from your graveyard to your hand for the most part. So Delve is good, and it lets you draw 3 cards. He had some ability to tutor. Fabricate, which goes and gets an artifact and puts in your hand, which obviously is for the thumb. And War of Invention, which also is to go get the thumb. It's 3 blue and X. And then it has Improvise, which I don't think really matters much in this deck. And then you can search your library for an artifact card with a converted mana cost or mana value now of X or less and put it onto the battlefield. So, basic stuff here. Next section is going to be based on just Okaun, because this is for that card specifically. Things like this effect. Thud, 1 red, and as an additional cost to cast a spell, you sacrifice a creature. And then Thud deals damage equal to the sacrificed creature's power to any target. So the point here is that you're going to make Okaun as big as you can by flipping as many coins as you can. Its power will increase infinitely, and then Thud will throw it at somebody. Kind of like Braun Stromgard or whatever his name is. So similar effects like that are Fling, which you have to sacrifice the creature, and then it will deal damage equal to the creature's power to a target creature or player, or I think that's any target now. Kazul's Fury, same thing, you have to sacrifice the creature, and then it will deal damage equal to its power to any target. This one actually flips over, and you can play it as a land if you need the land too. Soul's Fire, this one's a little different than the other ones. This one's 3 to cast in an instant, and target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to any target, so there's no sacrificing on this one now, and that's where this one's a much better upgrade. Same thing with Gravitic Punch. It's 4 to cast for a sorcery that has target creature you control deal damage equal to its power to target player, and then you can jumpstart it, which means you can play it again from your graveyard by discarding a land card. And then Chandra's Ignition is probably the best version of this in the deck. It's a 5 to cast sorcery that says target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to each other creature and each opponent. So if you can get Okaun up high enough, and then Chandra's Ignition, you can win the game that way. The last set of instants and sorceries look to be just a mishmash of different utility stuff. So like Shadow Rift, it's a 1 to cast instant that says target creature gains Shadow until end of turn. Shadow is a different version of Horsemanship, for those that don't know. It can only block or be blocked by creatures that have Shadow, so it's basically a form of evasion. And it's a cantrip, so it lets you draw a card. Winter Sky, weird card. It's a 1 red sorcery where you flip a coin, and obviously an opponent has to call heads or tails on this one. And then it says it deals 1 damage to each creature or player if you win, or each player draws a card if you lose. So, weird card. That's probably coming out. Unleash Fury is 2 to cast for an instant that doubles the power of target creature until end of turn. So, obviously, Okaun is the target for that. Fiery Gambit, a lot of words. Going to read this one off to you. It's a 3 to cast sorcery that says you flip a coin until you lose a flip, or choose to stop flipping. If you lose the flip, Fiery Gambit has no effect. If you win 1 or more flips, it deals 3 damage to target creature, but if you win 2 or more flips, it deals 6 damage to each opponent, or if you win 3 flips or more, you draw 9 cards and untap all hands you control. Very long and very convoluted, but it's pretty simple once you've figured out what it means. I don't know if I'm going to keep this one in here for an update later, but, we'll see. And the last instant / sorcery that he included in this deck was Stitch in Time, which is actually kind of cool. This was actually a pretty good inclusion. It's a 3 cast sorcery. You flip a coin. If you win the flip, you take an extra turn after this one. If you lose, nothing happens. Now let me show you the enchantments that he chose to include. We start off with a Footfall Crater. It's a 1-cast aura that enchants a land, and it gives the enchanted land the ability to tap it to have target creature you control gain trample and haste until end of turn. This is so that you can give Okaun not evasion, but a way to get damage through your opponent so you can do commander damage. It also cycles away for 1 if you don't need it. Like if you have Rogue's Passage in play, you don't really need this, but you never know. Wizard class. So just like the 2 enchantments that he included that made it so you have no maximum hand size, this does the same thing. And then it also has 2 other abilities. The reason for the no maximum hand size is because Zndrsplt lets you draw a lot of cards for flipping coins, so you're going to want something like these. The second level of this card says that when this class becomes level 2, you draw 2 cards. And then for level 3, it says whenever you draw a card, you put a +1/+1 counter on target creature that you control. I have a feeling that this was only in here for the first 2 abilities, just because you don't want a maximum hand size when Zndrsplt starts to really get you a lot of cards in your hand, and then you also want to draw more cards, so I think that's why those are in there. Goblin Bomb is a fun one. So it's a 2-cast enchantment that says, during your upkeep, you may choose to flip a coin. If you win the flip, you put a fuse counter on it. If you lose the flip, you remove a fuse counter from it. And then you can remove 5 fuse counters from it and sacrifice it to have it deal 20 damage to target player. It's kind of a fun card. I'm not sure if it's really viable, but I mean, it's fun for the kids, so. And then the last enchantment that he included was Planar Chaos, which is a 3-cast enchantment that says at the beginning of your upkeep, flip a coin. If you lose the flip, sacrifice Planar Chaos. But whenever a player plays a spell, that player flips a coin, and if they lose, you counter that spell. So it works against you too, but it's more for just flipping coins. Now let's talk about the artifacts that he chose to include. The most important card in the deck is actually Kark's Thumb. It is a 2-cast legendary artifact that says if you would flip a coin, instead flip 2 coins and ignore 1. So that doubles the amount of coins you flip, which is great for this deck. And it also lets you eliminate one of the actual results to be in your favor. So that's why there's so many things that go and search for this card, because it's actually the most key part to the deck. Key to the City is a 2-cast artifact that you can tap it and discard a card and have up to 1 target creature not be blockable this turn. That's the reason for this in the deck. And it says whenever Key to the City becomes untapped, you may pay 2 generic mana, and if you do, you draw a card. Mask of Avacyn, it's to help protect one of your creatures. It could most likely will be Okaun, I don't know how to say the name, or Zndrsplt. What horrible names. It gives it hexproof and +0/+2, and it equips for 3. Same thing with Swiftfoot Boots. It gives that creature hexproof, it gives it haste, and only equips for 1 now. Whisper Silk Cloak, 3-cast, it gives that creature Shroud and not be able to be blocked. So that's important as well. And this one equips for 2. And then Loxodon Warhammer is a 3-cast equipment that gives the creature +3/+0, trample, and lifelink, and equips for 3. So this is for Okaun too. So the last thing I'm going to go over for you are the last 2 cards that he put in this deck that are a win con. These are not a combo, but they combine well together to give you a win. This is synergy, not combo. Start off with Frenetic Efreet. It's a 3-cast 2/1 with flying that has an ability that you pay 0 on it, and then you flip a coin. That's the cost. And it says target opponent calls heads or tails while the coin is in the air naturally. And then if the flip ends up in your favor, Frenetic Efreet phases out. Otherwise, you bury Frenetic Efreet, which means that it dies and you can't regenerate it. One of the cool things about this card that I had to actually specifically look up is there's a difference between this one and Frenetic Sliver. The Sliver says it has to be in play to keep flipping. This card does not, which means that you can choose to flip 1,000,000 times, and then it doesn't matter what the results are because you still flip him even after he either dies or phases out. So that's why that's important. And then he chose to put in here Chance Encounter, which is a very good win con for a deck based on coin flipping. It's 4-cast enchantment that says whenever you flip a coin, you put a luck counter onto Chance Encounter, and then at the beginning of your upkeep, if Chance Encounter has 10 or more counters on it, you win the game. Very simple, very basic, but the whole point of it is that the Frenetic Efreet allows you that opportunity to get those 10 counters on there. And that was the combo he chose, or actually the combination of cards he chose to be the fun little extra win con on top of Okaun being really big and flinging it, or doing commander damage, or drawing a lot of cards with Zndrsplt.
And there you have it, folks. My newly acquired Okaun Zndrsplt coin flipped commander deck that cost me $40 from a friend. While this is the only Is It colored commander deck that I have at the moment, this will not be filling the Is It spot on my 32 deck challenge. Instead, I've decided that I will be giving this deck to my son as a gift for when he wants to play. I feel he will enjoy this theme a lot more than just being handed a random budget deck that I've made to playtest. At some point, I will be making some changes to this deck to beef it up a little bit, but for now, it's fine as is. I'm sure I will also do an updated video to show the changes that I made, but I'm not sure when, so if you want to see that sooner rather than later, let me know in the comments. Now, as far as next week's video goes, I've got a brand new budget commander build to show you using one of the most popular commanders over the past couple of years, so be sure to join me for that. That's all for now. Thank you for watching, and if you could, please do me the favor of giving the video a like, subscribing to the channel if you haven't done so yet, sharing this out to anyone you believe will enjoy it, and visiting our sponsor at arcane-fortress.com and using discount code BLUEBEAR for an additional 5% off your order if you decide to purchase anything from them. Now, unless you decide to go and watch some of my many other videos, I will see you all next week.